So today's topic, the mind, a friend or a foe. Um, so far, what we have covered is harmonizing body, mind, and spirit through meditation. There, we talked about how meditation help and how it aligns with the mind and intelligence to our body and ultimately to our soul. Um, we also talked about the sound meditation and the mantra meditation very specifically. In the second topic, we explored the topic of happiness, that we all humans are looking for happiness. But at the same time, when we look at the animal kingdom, we see that they are doing sleeping, eating, mating, and defending, four things, right? And if we humans also do the same things, if our life is involved doing the same thing at a different level, right? It's more or less the same life, right? We are just saying that we are eating in a restaurant rather than eating on the road, right? So what's the purpose of life? That's what we explored. That as a human, we need our human has been given a brain which can inquire that why I am here, what is the purpose of my life, and then we talked about the difference, right? That humans have a discrimination power. They can inquire, which animals don't or very limited. Okay. Then in the next topic, we talked about the consciousness, the missing link. Here we talked about that we are more than the body. There is a consciousness. But how do we know where the consciousness is coming from? We analyzed that topic that the consciousness is a symptom of the soul. Then we said, okay, but how do we prove that there is a soul? And we looked into some of the proof points. So logically, we said that we say my hand, and then somebody leave the body. We say that, oh, she's gone or he is gone. Who is gone? So body is still there, right? So soul is gone. So logically, how it is becoming. Then we talked about the scientifically, like near-death experience, past life memory, right? We talked a little bit about the past life regression, and we went over some of the scientists who have looked into the data and they have collected data, and through that we know that there is something beyond the body, right? And that is what it is called soul. That's what the philosophy says, that that's a soul, and that's the soul which gives the energy to the body, and that's the living force within us, right? So that's the consciousness. So now we will be exploring the another topic, the mind, and this is why it is so important. As we are learning any yoga system, and some of you are already the explorer, you are a seeker. Shruti, you said that, okay, I'm coming from the place of inquisitivity, right? I just want to learn. So if you look into any yoga system, the mind is the most prominent part, right? You take even the asanas, the focus is on the mind and on the awareness. You take the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Stanga Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. The focus is the mind. Why the mind is the central point for our spiritual growth, right? That's the question. And so we will be exploring the topic today, and the mind is the something which will continue through our journey in all the top. It will more or less it comes, right? Because it's such an important topic. All right. So that's the preamble for the uh, video for today. And Shruti, what we do, we talk about the topic, and then we play a video on that topic, and after that we have a discussion. Okay, so most of our time will be in the discussion. The video will be for like around 10 minutes or so.
Sounds great.
The mind, a friend or a foe? As we progress into the 21st century, we see that science and technology has reached heights which couldn't have been imagined a few decades ago. The purpose of science is to either eliminate all miseries or at best reduce miseries, and thereby bring more and more happiness into the lives of common people. So, we should expect the most cherished qualities of love, peace, and fraternity amongst the citizens. However, the present-day scenario is just the opposite. If knowledge is power, it is worth considering why we are unable to control the world situation today. One need not blame the government, politicians, bureaucrats, police officials, judiciary, etc., for the problems that the world faces today. If we are internally disturbed, we will reflect it onto the outside world by creating disturbances for others. Hence, it is essential to evaluate the nature of our mind in order to understand the art of mind control. The biggest challenge today is dealing with an identity crisis. Who am I? If one can identify one's real identity, he can work towards achieving lasting happiness. The ancient Vedic wisdom suggests that we are not these bodies, but pure spiritual consciousness. The body which we see is actually dead matter. It appears to be alive because of the presence of the consciousness. When the consciousness leaves the body becomes inactive. The consciousness is a spiritual energy covered by the material energy consisting of gross elements and subtle elements. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, the gross elements are earth, water, fire, air, ether, and the subtle elements are mind, intelligence, and false ego. The subtle element of false ego, or ahankara, causes the spiritual consciousness to identify with the material body. Intelligence is the decision maker and discriminates amongst the various options thrown by the mind. Mind is the center of all activities of the senses and is the reservoir of all ideas of sense enjoyment. It is a storehouse of thoughts, unfulfilled desires, and previous experiences. The simple functions of the mind are thinking, feeling, and willing. These functions sometimes manifest in the form of the accepting or rejecting of ideas by the mind, and sometimes in the form of the mind hankering for things we don't have or to lament our past. Our material body is like a chariot. It has 5 horses, the senses of hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell. Each of us is a spiritual consciousness riding within. We're the passenger. And to keep the horses on course, we have the reins, our mind, and the driver, our intelligence. As we've all experienced, our sensory horses are always ready to bolt off after this or that, and their pulling creates anxiety in our mind. The problem is that we have no permanent goal to keep our mind on. If empowered by spiritual knowledge, it has sufficient strength to control the mind. The senses composed of the gross elements are the direct link of the consciousness and the subtle body with the external world. The overall coordination of the whole conscious body arrangement can thus be fulfilled only if the senses are controlled. For example, when you are walking along the road and you see a pizza shop, first your eyes are attracted by the picture of the pizza. This information is passed on to the mind. The mind has 2 things: the previous experience of the taste of pizza and the input of seeing the pizza. The mind consults the intelligence, and the intelligence dictates to your hands and legs to go to the shop and purchase the pizza. In this way, coordination takes place between the senses, mind, and intelligence. How to control the mind. The nature of mind is like a jumping monkey jumping from one branch to another and is never stable. The mind is not satiated, no matter how many of its desires you try to fulfill. From stress to heart attack, from depression to suicide, from a petty quarrel to a bloody feud, the culprit behind all problems is the uncontrolled mind. An uncontrolled mind can completely ruin a person. However, there is hope. As the Bhagavad Gita says, a man must elevate himself by his own mind, not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So how can we control the mind? There are many physical, mental, and spiritual techniques. Physical methods include yoga exercises, pranayama, breathing exercises, diet, celibacy, fasting, etc. Mental techniques include forgiveness, detachment, techniques to develop concentration, patience, self-control over impulses, positive thinking, and change of mental attitudes. Spiritual techniques include mantra meditation, developing realized knowledge about the self, associating with spiritually minded people, and a spiritual diet. These spiritual techniques have been found to be all-inclusive, and simply by following the spiritual principles, the benefits of all the other methods, physical and mental, can be experienced. Sometimes, out of frustration, we try to quiet our mind by stopping our senses and engaging in silent meditation. This may bring us some relief, but it doesn't last, because sooner or later, our senses have to act. So the solution to permanently control and engage the mind is to find a goal that's permanent and fully satisfying to our senses, mind, and intelligence. Krishna recommends in the Bhagavad Gita, dedicate your activities to me, absorb your senses, mind, and intelligence in me, and you will attain me. Krishna's very name means the highest satisfaction. There is no peace and happiness in the accumulation of wealth or possessing bodily beauty or in display of strength. The real secret of happiness is in a controlled mind, which is gradually achieved with a spiritual way of life. It is very difficult to control the mind and senses without experiencing a higher taste of spiritual bliss. The spirit can experience such a higher taste by chanting the names of supreme consciousness in love. For the present age, the recommended process for developing a higher taste is to chant the Maha Mantra in association of spiritualists.
All right. So we'll start our session with a quick icebreaker. What quality do you appreciate most in a person?
I can
I
go.
think openness and honesty.
Openness and honesty. Very good. Very good. Anyone else?
Mine was similar to what she was going to say, which I was just going to say somebody who's genuine. So it's the same.
Union.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I think reliability and consistency in tandem with those things are really important. And
Reliability
someone who is a light, someone who brings you up and lights up the room. That's something I really appreciate.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, and I wanted to let me share quickly one more thing. So there was the analogy which was talked about, right? The analogy of the chariot. Does you remember how the analogy was connected? What are the horses?
All the sense.
All the senses. Very good. And what is the rein by which the horse is being pulled?
Our mind.
Our mind. And who is the person driving the chariot?
Intelligence.
Our intelligence. And who is the person scared and sitting in behind?
The
Us.
soul. Yeah. Who we
And
are.
why that person is so scared?
Doesn't look like it's being controlled so very well.
See, because if the horses are being controlled, then the person will be very happy, right? The car is going, perfect driver, but the driver is drunk and just taking the car here and there, then naturally the passenger will be very scared, right? So this is the one. This is the one. I was recently in India, like around 4 months ago, and the driver we got was sleeping, right? And he was like not a very friendly driver. So we were just waking him up, but we are not telling him too much because we didn't want it to get him mad. And it was scared. Like my children were scared that he's sleeping like that. So yes. All right. So with that, we will be going over the question discussion part. Bree, would you like to drive that? Okay.
Yes, I can share my screen. My computer allows. It's really interesting, that picture that you were just showing, because when I first saw it, then there was a statement where they say ignorance is the cause of all miseries. Even though it's funny because our minds tell us sometimes that ignorance is bliss.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and that's true. Like the toddlers, right? We say peekaboo, peekaboo, right? They're always happy, smiling, but there can be the problem, right? We just close our eyes and we are happy. So ignorance is bliss.
Where are the questions? I don't see
Okay.
them.
Okay. I can.
Yeah, could you?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm missing question 1.
No worries. So I'm going to paste the question here. So I pasted the question, Bree.
Yes. All right. So first question would be explaining the interaction amongst the functions of the mind, intelligence, and the false ego. And so this is really interesting concepts, because a lot of the times, at least with my experience, before practicing bhakti, I contributed the mind and intelligence to be the same thing. And so in that concept, does anybody have any understanding of the interactions amongst the functions of the mind, intelligence, and false ego, if it's in a separate if it's a separate entity? Or do you think it's the same thing? Do they interact with each other? Does one cause the other to interact? Do they all function at the same time? Things like that.
I'm just thinking through this out loud. What struck me as as the video was talking about the mind being separate from intelligence and the false ego. I thought about how often, you'll ask someone, have you made up your mind? What does that mean? Making up your mind is making a decision based on your intelligence, your knowledge, probably your ego and that connection as well, right? All of the things that make up that spiritual consciousness, potentially. I'm not really sure about this. Curious what others think.
Yes. Did you have any ideas, Shruti?
Yeah, I mean, I was also on the same lines of, ignorance is bliss. From my own personal experience of, if I can give an example, I have two children. The first one, I didn't know much. So I I took every day as a new day, and the fear in me was much less. But for the second pregnancy, I knew what could go wrong. That kind of built a lot of fear in me of, I shouldn't do XYZ. I should be careful about certain things. So, the concept of ignorance is bliss is something that I also go by. But at the same time, off late I'm learning about Gnana Yoga, where it says it's a path to conquer the ignorance, or rather, go through the liberation by gaining more knowledge. So it's contradicting to each other. So I mean, I would really love your insight into how one should look at ignorance. I mean, because ignorance is bliss kind of gives me a lot of peace versus the other way around, because sometimes the knowledge is great, but whether the knowledge that you have is accurate or not, that is also questionable these days, right? The source of the knowledge is also something that not all of us have the right access to, if that
That's
makes
very
any sense.
true.
I don't know if I answered the question or I went around.
No, that was a good answer, and when I appreciate it because, like I said, when I prior to practicing bhakti, I also was along the lines of that as well. Like, oh, ignorance is bliss. Oh no, she she she's out. So while we wait for her to come back, I was going to give an analogy of the mind, the intelligence, and then the false ego, right? So we are considering ourselves the lump of matter, which is false ego. I am the body, right? So say we are in a completely dark room, completely black, and you don't know how big the room is. You don't know what's in the room. You just know you're in. You don't even know if it's a room, You can just you assume. How would you feel?
The unknown is scary, right?
Mhm,
Fear.
mhm. Which is, it will cause you to become what, anxious, fearful, you know, that is ignorance. You can't see what is around you, right? And so that is what would be considered, you just don't know. You don't know where you are. You don't know what's there with you. You don't know if somebody's with you. You don't know if you're alone. You don't know who you are. You don't know anything. And so you have your mind, you have your intelligence, right? Your mind is feeling what? Anxious. That's my answer. I don't know what you would feel in that scenario.
It's interesting, there's science that proves how when you're not told a story, right? So something has happened and you don't hear from the doer. Our minds will fill in the blanks, right? We'll create a story, whether that's the reality or not. And so that's interesting the way that you described that, the blackness,
Mhm.
right? what you do in that sense, in ignorance, your mind fills in all of the blanks, and that can become overwhelming and anxious.
Yeah. Welcome back, Shruti.
Yes,
So
I'm sorry, it got kicked
you're
out in
fine.
between.
No, you're fine. So far I've explained a scenario, right? Say you, in the concept of bhakti. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so in that concept, we all consider ourselves the body. I am the body. I am here. You get dropped off in this dark, what you would consider a room. You cannot see anything around you. It's completely dark. Um, you don't know how big the room is. You don't know if it's a room. You don't know if you are alone or if there's other people. And because you're in that room, and you cannot see anything, how does that feel, right? How would you feel in that situation?
Definitely scared.
Yes, exactly, which is the concept of darkness would be considered the ignorance portion of it. That's something that causes anxiety and it's something that causes fear because it's fear of the unknown, right? We have no idea in this false ego who we are, where we came from, where we're going, what we're supposed to be doing. It's completely confusing. And then so you were just saying something. I don't want to pronounce your name wrong. I'm so sorry. Um,
Shruti.
Shruti and Angeline.
Angelina.
Angelina. And so Angelina was just talking about how if you are in situations where you are in unknown aspects, and you don't know, then you tend to fill in the blanks. And whatever you fill in could be considered right. It could be considered out of this world wrong. It could just be considered, there's so many possibilities, and you don't know if it's correct information, as you mentioned before, you got kicked off or not, right? And so your mind is, as we established, anxious and scared. So how would you use your intelligence? What would your intelligence tell you to do in that situation? And you might not know, right? There might not be a good answer. I can give you a hint. My intelligence, would be like, there has to be a light somewhere. I try to find the light. And so if you have intelligence in order to desire to find the light so then you can actually see, then your mind is your best friend. If you stay in the dark and you consider anything, your mind is not your friend because anything can come up, can convince yourself of anything. And there's so many scientific studies of putting people in white rooms and black rooms. You heard what happened to them, right? Did they not go insane? This is legitimate, right? So your intelligence, if you are allowed, or if you have that, would be like, I need to find something so then I can physically see what's going on. That's what it would tell you. I saw you said you wanted to say something, Shruti.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes total sense of, if you knew there is something called light, in going in search of it is great. But if in a situation that you don't know there is light to go looking for, that, puts you in a much, much deeper state.
That's so true. And to be completely honest, that's what everybody is going through right now. Some people know that there's a light. Some people don't know that there's a light at all. And, we're all still trying to figure it out, right? And so that's a good point. We're all in such different stages of, whatever spiritual journey we're going through that we know what is a light. There's so many conceptions of, how to align your mind and intelligence to give you a better chance of understanding who we truly are. In that video, it even says that a lot of our problems start off because we don't know who we are. A lot of people ask those questions, what's the meaning of life? Or, all these other things. That's the cause of our suffering. We don't know. So we do whatever our mind allows us to do. And that might cause our intelligence to become our friends, or, our intelligence will tell us what to do. And that might allow our minds to become our friends, or it might put our minds in a situation where it's not so friendly to us.
Mm-hmm.
What's the second question? Let's see.
And if I can add a little bit what,
Yeah.
as the discussion is going, and that analogy of the dark room is really wonderful, actually. That explains the concept really nicely. So see, this is something which has been enlightening for me, right? That the interaction, that whenever we have to make the decision, mind is tells that we want, right? So mind, I want something, I want to do that. So what mind does, it sends the signals to the intelligence. Should I do it or not? And if mind is strong, it will also give the convincing, it will tell the intelligence, I really like it, I like this food. And intelligence will say that, yeah, I think you should eat this sweet, that's fine. So the intelligence send the signals back to the senses, and the senses act. So the mind consult the intelligence, and intelligence sends the signals to the senses. um, and this is where, as you were talking about, if the mind is already have the preconceived notion and is not giving a free rein to the intelligence, and the mind is much stronger than the intelligence, then the intelligence just becomes the figurehead, right? It just becomes a figurehead, and mind is just basically dictating, and that's the time mind is becoming not a friend, right? Because it will be just doing what the mind wants. And so that was the wonderful thing when I learned about it. And that gives me, like, I'm always aware that, try to be aware, not, it doesn't happen all the time. I always try to be aware that, is it my mind which is telling me I need to do it, or is it the function of the intelligence? And it may be a little hard to distinguish initially, but as we practice more, we will become more aware that whether it's the mind which is telling, or whether it's the intelligence is telling. Okay, so in general, uh, the mind is the reservoir of, like, this thinking, willing, uh, thinking, feeling, willing, right? Those are the symptoms of the mind, right? And intelligence is the decision maker, the discrimination. And the video said one thing: anything, through the false ego, we identify ourselves, right? Oh, I am Deepak, I work at this place, I have the house, I have a wife, I have two children. So it's I, and I am the big guy, right? So that's my false ego. And we will learn that why we call it a false ego, not the real ego, because in this world everything is relative, right? I am a big guy, other person can be bigger guy, but I think I am a big guy, and then we both ego will clash and we will have a fight, right? That's the reason it's called a false ego, right? So these element, right? Understanding that, how mind is interplaying with the intelligence, and how it is interplaying with the false ego, can be a big eye opener on our journey.
Such a good point. I remember when I was younger, I always considered, like, oh, I have so much time. I have so much time. I could do these things serious. And then when my husband got into a car accident, I'm like, oh, do I have so much time? Oh my God, And so it's just interesting to see how you could be so easily convinced by your mind sometimes, you know. Yeah.
Yep. And Bree, I send the questions to you on your private chat. If you just
I
look
think
up.
I should have. I
Yeah.
think I should have question two, hopefully. I think here it is.
Yeah.
Um, actually, is that the right one? I don't know. Maybe it's not.
No. Okay.
I
So,
think, yeah.
so I'll put it. Actually, it is, in a way, it is, I suppose. It's not full. I'll just paste it here for everyone. So, in it, in your opinion, why is it essential to control the mind? What could be the consequences of an uncontrolled mind on the self and the society?
We have a tendency to beat ourselves up, to overthink, to overanalyze everything, instead of being in a state where we can actually feel and know at the essence of our being that it's okay, we're gonna be okay, right? Part of calming the mind and controlling the mind is to bring ourselves back to present so that we're not thinking about yesterday or 10 minutes ago or 2 minutes from now or next year, but that we're here, we're present, and that we're fully functionable in that way. And when we get out of balance, we have panic attacks, we have anxiety, we have anger, we have all of these things, right? Like, here's the thing though. This is a podcast that Dina was listening to, my friend who is in these classes. Sometimes she said, yeah, there's this great brain science on how rather than saying like, oh, I am anxious, I'm having anxiety. No, you are not your thoughts or feelings, right? We know that. And so you can say, I'm experiencing anxiety or I'm experiencing anger, right? And it removes the thought, the feeling from your actual state of being. That is not who you are. And so controlling your mind will help you to control your thoughts and emotions in the way that you feel, to recognize that that's not really truly who you are, and you take that self-limiting factor out of the equation. And that helps not only you, but everybody around you, because when you are your highest self, everyone else benefits, right?
Mhm. It's a really good, that's a really good exercise to have. I've heard that too. Did you have anything, Shruti?
Yes. I think, going back uh, to our existence, what differentiates us from other species is that we have a mind, um, and a consciousness. And if we don't put it to good use or control it, then our whole evolution, I think, our existence is kind of lost. And um, I think we do come, I mean, like they say, nothing new is created and nothing new is lost, right? It's like that water raindrop philosophy. The rain comes down and then again evaporates and goes back. So it's not, there's not some, so we've always been existed and we will always exist. So if we don't do good, and control our mind, I think that kind of gets passed on, and the misery. Um, I don't know if I'm making sense, but um, I think the path to liberation is not going to be as smooth as we would want it to be. I mean, from what I've recently read, it says that in one life you cannot learn everything, and that's why there's this theory called as old soul, right? When you meet someone, or someone calls you an old soul, that means that probably you've learned a lot over the previous lifetime, that you have some kind of aura around you which gives us a sense of calmness to other people. That's because you're able to control your mind and consciousness and um, be good around people. I I mean, this is from a personal point of view, as in from an individual point of view, but in terms of how it can benefit the society at large, I'm not able to put that in
Mm.
words.
Mhm. No, I mean, I think that's a really strong, these are really strong statements though. You said some things that I'm gonna combine what both of you all said just because you both had really good points. Um, and so one thing that I heard was that, your mind is not who you are, right? So you understood that, you are not your feelings, right? So you separate those things in order to ensure that you do not convince yourself of one thing to cause um, extreme stress and anxieties, and it helps you kind of cope and achieve more to, move forward and push forward in a healthier way. And I think that's a really good step in understanding more about false ego, since that is that's one of the main concepts of what false ego is. You are not your body, which also includes the mind. And so when you understand that and realize it more, it's a lot easier to overcome a lot of things that you see and experience in the world. It reminds me of my military experience. They also teach you you're not the mind or the body in the military. They teach you instead that you are a soldier, right? So they train you in order to fix your intelligence on how to be a soldier. So you could also be trained to fix your mind intelligence to be a spiritual being.
Oh, I think that, reminded me of one other thing that I wanted to add is like controlling your mind, I think only opens up more opportunities and enables you to explore beyond your physical body, right?
Mhm.
They say that there are 5 layers, and so beyond the physical level, you will only be able to go further if you're able to control your consciousness and your mind.
Absolutely. And you said something really important as well, which was that we can't be destroyed, which means that there's an understanding that you
Mhm.
yourself, cannot be destroyed. So you understand that, you go somewhere, you go many places, and when people consider someone an old soul, that means that there's some kind of understanding that they've probably been around for so many things. It's just that maybe they're in the dark a little bit about what that means, right? So you can say
Right.
things, people say things all the time like, oh, you're an old soul, or in our next life we're going to be this bird. But in reality, and that's reality, but in reality also, do you actually understand what that means? Because it's profound. Who we really are does not constitute the exact body that we're in right now, right? If people
Right.
say this all the time, you can hear it in
Hmm.
movies, and it's crazy. It's very interesting.
True. Yeah.
So you both said some really profound things. So understanding and controlling it will help exactly what you all are saying, eliminate and reduce miseries. It'll bring you naturally into more happiness. Because it takes away a lot of the anxieties that your senses bring to you. Um, if you are not able to control your mind, so the complete opposite way, not only will society suffer because you're doing things that aren't really good for yourself, probably not good for the people that you're associating with, right? Your mind can tell you a whole bunch of things, right? Oh, just one drink, it's not too bad. What, or oh, just try this one time. It's not your mind could tell you a lot of things and convince you that they're okay, and then you're associating with people who could trust you, right? And you could genuinely be telling them what your mind is telling you, right? And it causes such chaos. So there's that factor. There is your own personal health, where your mind could be telling you so many things and causing so many anxieties that you personally get physically ill. And then you're dealing with health issues on top of that. And you think your mind is going to be, better with that. No, it's a snowball, really. It's a snowball effect. And so the the best way in order to prevent that from happening as much as we can. Obviously, there's always nature that causes a lot of these things, and so I can't say it's like everything will 100% stop. But in order to what's the word, reduce or to make a little easier would be to be able to control your mind in any type of training for anything, military, dance, extreme sports, meditation, if they tell you to concentrate and focus your mind, even through the difficult situations that you're going through, at least you can see more clearly and you're not making things that could cause catastrophic mistakes, right? And don't think it's like we're not perfect beings, of course, but it will prevent us from making catastrophic mistakes. I can, there's so many examples of that, right? But, I think you got the point.
And if I can ask a question, so as Shruti, as you were talking about, you said that if the mind is in control, then you've read that it will allow you to go and explore higher. Why is that so? Why controlling the mind allows you to explore the higher things?
Mm.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if you are, building on your awareness and able to build that um, control over your mind, you're moving away from your day to day desires and day to day struggles. So you have the time and capacity to go further deep into the practice versus if you are struggling and fighting with your own consciousness, figuring out what is intelligence for mind. I think you get stuck in that cycle of the day to day miseries, day to day responsibilities. I think it would be it's I mean even for someone who is aware of those different or dualities, it's hard to separate ourselves from it and go beyond. I think like I said, it probably takes multiple lifetime for us to achieve it. But I think it's only possible once you have a control over it and distance yourself from all the worldly pleasures and desires.
Mm.
Okay, so
Very
yeah,
profound.
yeah. So I'll just so for simplicity, I think you answered it well. You answered it definitely well. But see, I'm just going to the previous statement I had made, right, for the previous question, that how mind is linked with the intelligence and how then intelligence sends the signals to the senses, right? So if the mind is always trying to fulfill my desire, right, because the senses want it, then there's no other time for mind, because mind is telling, senses is telling I want this, mind is telling yeah, I also I want it, and so they are always I want it, and that will lead to misery, because sometimes we'll get it, sometimes we won't get it, because that's the nature of the world. And when we start hearing to the intelligence is saying that that thing is really not needed, right? So one of the best thing what I have heard how to control the mind is to ignore it. One of the best way to control the mind is learn to ignore it. Say thank you very much. Next time. I've already had four cups of coffee. I think I'll ignore you. Thank you very much. Not the fifth one, right? So that's the reason. So, but you explained it really well. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I always think about it. For my job, I have to be in a leadership role, and so I'm thinking like, if I have to trust one of my employees to do something that's extremely important, am I going to choose the person who is like, oh, I'm going to do all these things, and then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to take all this, and they're just doing anything that, or I'm going to take somebody or trust somebody who is more um understanding of like, okay, I got to prioritize this, I have to do this, and I have to. So which one would you choose in the leadership role to finish a good project, right? Same with nature. And so it's kind of like, oh, if your intelligence is telling you how to behave in a better way by controlling that mind, then you do get a lot more opportunity to grow and see things that for how they are. And so I think I found the third question. Hope I found the third question. So, so what does stress mean to you, and how can we befriend our mind to live a happy life? Any ideas? What does stress mean to you? And then how can you befriend your mind to live a happy life?
Stress is worrying about all of the things that really don't matter outside. um, Sometimes it's mundane, sometimes it's serious, and um, crazy. I typically it takes about 2 hours to drive where I came to this week, and it took 4.5.
Oh,
And I was feeling very tired. And I got to a point with like the last hour and a half of the drive that I was like, I'm just done. I'm done. I want out of here. And I was just like totally spinning myself up. And I tried to like listen to something that would help me calm. All I could think about was, I need to be there. I need to be. I didn't need to be anywhere. I was fine right where I was. It's going to be fine that I get to where I get when I get there, and I'll take care of business when I get there. Um, but it's things like that where you sort of get off track, with all of the daily tasks. And there's bigger things too, right? There's the big stressors, like my mom was in surgery an hour ago. She's probably out now. Um, and in order to sort of surpass some of that, to be happy, I always tell myself that everything works together for our good. So typically, when there's traffic or I drop a gigantic jar of spaghetti sauce on the ground right before I'm trying to leave and I'm in a hurry, I go, there's a reason for that. Something has slowed me to the point where I'm avoiding who knows what, right? So I just try to take all of these things as they come, as the best possible thing for me right now, so that I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and that begets happiness. Because I understand that things happen in the time that they're supposed to, and when they're supposed to, and I can accept that, or I can try to fight against that. And yes, I have my intelligence and I can make decisions that impact these things, but I can either accept or I can fight. Why fight?
it's a very good point. I like that point a lot, actually. There's a lot in there. How about you, Shruti?
Sorry, if you could, give me the question again.
Yeah, you're fine. So it's what does stress mean to you, and how can we befriend our mind to live a happy life?
Um,
It's a
yeah, I
lot.
think, yeah, that's a lot. Um, I think stress is like, something that you are not able to accomplish in a given time, or meeting your expectation, right? That's when it kind of um, boils up. And like Angelina said, I think that's a good way to look at it. And I should probably start practicing that, is the stress is not happening to me, and kind of distancing from that fact
Mm.
is a good way to look at it. But I think for me, the definition, the way I would define it, is like something that doesn't meet your expectation uh, would probably result in stress.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so you both hit on a really good point. I want to give you an example of how I stressed the baby out, and then kind of tie that all together, right? And so, because both of you had some really good points to this. So when my son was about a year and a half, a year, he um he grew attached to this wooden spoon, like a mixing spoon. He just grew attached to it where it had to go with him every single place, doing every single thing all the time. All the time. He would not give that spoon away. And so, being his mom, I'm like, why is he doing that? And so I would try to take the spoon away, right? And he's like, completely stressed, completely just so sad. Like he would fight and he would cry and he would fight and he would cry. And I would try to give him the spoon because I wanted to give him this nice shiny toy that I had for him instead. But he didn't care. He didn't see this toy. He only cared about that spoon. And unlike what you said, Angeline, was that you understood that you could there's, things happen. Things happen sometimes. There have been so many situations in life, in any circumstance, where you see people who try so hard to do what they desire to do, and they don't get it. Even though they've done everything formatically the way that it needs to be, they still don't get it. And there are some people who don't do anything, right? And they get everything. And we contribute that to it must be in their destiny, it must be fate, right? So that's how I understood what you were saying. And so when things happen that cause stress, and this is a very basic, there are a lot of stress factors, so don't, it's always, there's some complexities. But in this circumstance, in this example, um, things do happen. And your concept, I call that surrender, is that you understand that, yes, I'm planning for all these things. I've done everything right. And this is still happening. How can you fight that? You know, you could either surrender to that and say, it's above me. That's what I say. So a lot of like, it's above me. I try my best, it's above me. Or I could continue to push, 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 push. Um, and that causes what? Further stress. It causes anger. It causes bewilderment, you know, because how in the world could you do something to a T the way that it's supposed to be and it still doesn't happen, right? And so sometimes things do happen that cause stress all the time, actually, all the time. If we don't get what our senses want or we don't get what our ego wants, we become stressed and anxious about it. It happens all the time, either very minimally or very small. And so to experience things in the present time, like you expressed, and to understand that, sometimes I just have to surrender to fate, to the divine. It does help you understand that, you're not the cause of all causes. Because if we were, then we'd have everything we wanted, right? We wouldn't need to be stressed if we were the cause of all causes. We can't control really anything, um, although we do try. And that's just human nature. We do have that intelligence to try. So you both hit on some really good points. Let me see really quick. Deepak, did you have anything that you wanted to add on? I know I ramble, so
No. Yeah.
there are some ways to practice to get out
Yeah.
of that too, like meditation that helps. But yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So see what you're talking about. See, stress, of course, I'm looking at the time also, right? But in some other session, we'll talk that where we get what are some of the common source of stress. There's a category, right? So the book says that it's stress caused by our own mind. Okay. So that's one category of stress. That's the biggest category, by the way. Stress caused by our own mind. We dwell too much. The second category is stress caused by others, your neighbors, your boss, other driver, Angelina.
Multiple other drivers.
So the stress caused by other people. That's the other big the relationship, right? That's the other biggest cause of our stress. And then the third cause of so means these are all the cause of misery, right? Which leads to the stress. And the third is the misery caused by Mother Nature. Too much of rain, right? Earthquake, tornado, right? These kind of a thing, right? Unrest, government unrest. So these are the kind of thing which is the third cause. So these are the three causes of misery which the our book of philosophy talks about, and each of those will lead to stress if we don't know how to manage our mind, right? So those and how we can befriend our mind to live a happy life. Um, Finding higher purpose, because see, mind needs to be engaged. If the mind is not engaged, it will do the monkey thing. So we have to find the higher taste. And that's why the higher taste is spiritual understanding. We read the good books, we listen to the good music, right? Listening to the kirtan, like Angelina, you are driving, you can hear the kirtan. That's a wonderful thing. You can hear some nice lectures, right? So whenever on a long drive, typically that's what I do, right? So I'm engaged. Mind is engaged. Otherwise, mind will be thinking what happened or this driver or something. Mind will always be thinking. So that's how I have learned to manage my mind, right? To give it something higher taste and being just aware that what's happening to my mind. Still, sometimes we fail many times, but we have to keep trying. Okay. Yeah.
Really good point. Absolutely. Was there another question that I missed?
So yeah, so there's one more, and then after that we will wrap up. I have pasted the question: what are the different ways to control the mind, and which method appeals to you the most? Right. So the video did talk about the different methods to control the mind. So yeah.
Breath is the one that I used most commonly. We don't breathe as deep as we need to, right? And you notice that when you stress or you're not being mindful, you start to breathe really shallow. And in order to sort of reset the nervous system, you have to breathe deeply. So that's something that, I use a couple of different tools. There's a different breathing methods that I use. And I do that. I like that you brought up Deepak to, put on the kirtan, because I'll put that on while I'm driving and I'll just breathe. It's like, okay, I don't have time to sit right now, but I can do that in a meditative way. Music is a very good calm for me as well. Dance and connecting with nature, getting barefoot on the grass, ground, dirt, sand, rocks, whatever it is. Those are some of mine.
So good ways. Did you have one, Shruti?
Yes, I think exercise, and then yes, breathing is another one. And I also enjoy journaling. Um, so I'm not, regular at it, but it definitely helps me kind of break down, especially in situation where I am upset with how a situation is between two people, and I want to address it in a mindful way. I you know put the whole situation down on pen and paper, and then I get my answer of how I should respond or how I should deal with it. So journaling has always helped me kind of see both perspective, and then get back to the situation much better. And exercise on a day-to-day basis is something that I go to. The day I exercise, my diet is better. I don't snack as much, and I'm more active the day I have finished my exercise and fasting in the morning. The day I'm not exercising, I'm usually sitting and uh, consuming media and other stuff. So yeah.
I mean, these are all really really good ways because it makes you focus, right? It makes you focus on something instead of leaving your mind really open for so many things to come in. There, thoughts
Right.
come in, one of my ways that help me control my mind would be through mantra meditation. That's the easiest way for me. My mind goes everywhere, and so you can't see this room so much, but I mean, if you only saw the amount of art pieces I have started in here, there's always something. And so the best way for me when I started practicing bhakti was the mantra meditation because not only are you repeating this, but your mind can't think of anything else because you're thinking about the word that you're saying. It helped me a lot. It helps with not only did it help with um, getting rid of anxieties or anything like that, but it also helps with focus. I remember not being able to concentrate for, 8 minutes. That's one round of some of the mantra meditation. So when I started, I'm like, I can't concentrate for 8 minutes. So you could just imagine how much of a friend my mind was. Not so friendly. And so, but by doing so, I can at least an hour, 30 minutes, an hour and a half, 2 hours, if I'm lucky, if I have the time. It helps increase focus a lot. And then because of that, um, I wasn't so anxious because I wasn't thinking about like a million things at once, right? I was thinking about one specific thing. Um, and then with that mantra meditation, also, it helps me uh, become more involved with things that I didn't even know I liked, like music. Never did that before. And so, or, you know, anything that was like outside of drawing or painting, that was the only thing that I did. But, there's so many more things now. And so, that's how I um, help control my mind. The main one. That's really the only one that I do that helps me.
Well, I'll just put my little bit of my perspective, and I really I always try to approach it like very like in a scientific way, just like I was talking about how the when I learned how the mind intelligence and what's the connection with the mind intelligence and the senses. Similarly, you see in the video it talks about the way to control the mind, three categories. One is the physical category. That's where pranayama, yoga, exercise, breathing, right? Diet, good diet, kind of diet we eat. So those things come into the physical category, and we should learn those, right? So deep breathing is a very good thing. The other one is the mental technique, where the video talks about, and this is a much deeper question, but the time is less, so we'll just maybe spend few minutes. The video talked about practicing forgiveness and detachment. Why do you think that would help with the at the mental level? How that would help? Can
Mm.
anybody tell me a little bit?
I can give you a hint. One of y'all said it, but I won't repeat it.
Yeah, I think there was, I mean, from the mental aspect, there was one thing in the video which talked about was um, um, forgiveness, right?
Hmm.
So we, I think, consciously, if someone has hurt you and you haven't forgiven, that thought is on your mind almost every single day, even if
Mm,
not consciously, subconsciously, you're thinking about it. So if you're able to forgive that
very good.
person or the thing,
Very
then
good.
that thought has disappeared.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
So that
Wonderful.
makes, yeah, that makes you, ease. You feel
Yes.
at ease versus you're
Wonderful.
constantly having to fight that thought.
Wonderful. You get full marks.
Oh,
Okay, and then also think about the detachment. We won't talk about it again. Detachment, attachment. That's but think about it. How the detachment and how you can do the detachment. How that will help with the mental model. Even the gratitude that will also help with the mental model, right? So means you can internalize how those things are connected. And the third category. So the first category is physical. Second category is mental. The third category is spiritual. We approach from the spiritual angle. That's where Bree mentioned about the mantra. She does the mantra meditation, right? And then other thing is developing the realized knowledge. Realized. Can anybody tell me what is the difference between the knowledge and the realized knowledge?
knowledge is, I think, what you read, what you hear, that you're acquiring from your all the five senses, maybe, or maybe one senses. I don't know.
Mhm.
But the acquired acquired knowledge. No, what was the second one?
Realized.
Realized knowledge is, I think, self realization. Like, when I was meditating yesterday, I had this thought about the old soul, right? And it takes multiple lifetime. Only then will, we'll be able to get to the realize, liberation. Some of those thoughts, that because of what you know, opens up another level of knowledge that you might have not read or heard anywhere directly, but you get to that understanding, is how I see it.
That's a good
Okay.
point. Can I add on to it? Because there what you're saying, that's like it's really deep actually, and I don't want to get into it because it could cause me to, but on a more simplistic level, in the opposite way too, right? You can actually become intelligent on something by reading the facts about it, listening about it, taking classes about it, but you might not actually understand. And so the best example that I understand of this is, you know, don't touch that fire. And you can give somebody all the information about third degree burns, second degree burns, how that's going to feel, where you can find fire, how you can avoid it. You can give them everything and they could know this. But when you touch that fire, is when you actually understand, I'm not going to touch that fire. Now, some people will listen and learn, okay, this is what the fire will do. But a lot of people don't learn that way. A lot of people are like, let me see that fire. And then they're like, oh, I get it. I get it. They realize what, that's the difference. They know. It's like to learn or to know.
Very well explained. Very, very explained. So realized knowledge is basically experience. Once we have experienced something, then that knowledge has become real, right? So people talk big things, liberation, but who has experienced liberation? We're just talking here, right? But so we have to, uh, and um, and liberation is a real thing, by the way. I'm just saying that
There you go.
just getting the knowledge is not enough. We have to practice it so that we can realize it, right? So realizing, so practice is very important, and through that we get the realization. So thank you. That's I think, Bree, anything to add before we close the session for today?
Um, Concluding statement is that once you realize something, and once you acquire realized knowledge, then your intelligence will show you many things. But I also wanted to make sure, Angeline, did you have anything? I saw you unmuted.
I was just thinking back to forgiveness, and that can extend to your own self too, right? We trap
Mhm.
ourselves in our mind by not forgiving ourselves. And it's a simple thing to say who's hurt and who suffers by being angry or hurt or whatever with someone else.
Mm,
You, right? You are the
mhm.
one perceiving those feelings. And so let go and let them. And that allows you to then no longer suffer by it. So forgiveness is a beautiful thing for your own mind to be free.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
It's a very good point. That was a great class. Good discuss. I'm glad that you all participated with us today. I'm so collaborative that it gets awkward when I have to speak and nobody has the conversation. So I appreciate everybody, joining in on this very dynamic conversation today. And I look forward to our next one next week.
Yeah, and the next week is going to be even more exciting. We'll be talking about the moods and modes. The topic itself, right? Moods and modes. Like, so just think why some different people have a different kind of a mood. Some are angry, some are sad, some are like ready to fight, some are like very quiet, right? And then there are different environmental factors. What are those? What is the interaction? How it impact us? What is the impact of that on our mind and on our spiritual progress? We are going to explore all those topics, right? And it would be a wonderful discussion again.
Absolutely. All the discussions are wonderful, but thank you because it was the first time. So yes, and the rest will follow. That's good. It's a good reference.
Free your mind and rest will follow. Yes, yes,
That song. Oh yes.
yeah. All right. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you.
See you all.
Bye
You
bye.
too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.